Welcome back on the Cutting Edge. Rush Limbaugh meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. There's a couple other things I want to get into. Was there a blue wave in the Texas primaries? Well, wait a minute. The drive-bys told us Drudge had a giant map of Texas is all blue, and we were told that the Democrats were energized and they were fired up and they were motivated and they had to be held back. They couldn't wait to get to the polls. They were going to show how much they hate Trump and how much the country hates Trump, and there was going to be a precursor for the Democrats winning the House in 2018. Did it happen? So going into the primary yesterday, we were told that this was going to be where we would all learn that the end for Trump is just months away. It was going to be the perfect storm built by the perfect recipe. Here we have a classic red state. And this red state has the kind of people in it that the left has never been able to beat. And they don't like them. These are Texans. And they hunt. And they fish. They have guns. They drive big cars. They talk big. They live big. And they are vast majority Republican. But Texas was going to go blue in the primary yesterday because even that state was going to demonstrate how everybody finally has had their fill of Trump. Trump is now hated. Texas going blue would be the equivalent of North Korea adopting conservatism. And it was going to happen. It was only a matter of waiting for the votes to be tallied, because the hatred and disapproval of Trump is universal, even in big red Republican states. And this was going to be the harbinger. This was going to be the great indicator. This was going to be where we were going to learn how big a midterm election victory the Democrats were going to have in November. Did it happen? Well, let me read to you a tweet here from the polling wizard at the New York Times. His name is Nate Cohn. I don't know if he's related to Gary Cohn, but it's spelled the same. Nate Cohn. It's nearly a 20-point GOP lead in the Texas primary. Democrat areas are still disproportionately left to report. GOP edge now at about 22 points, 61 to 39%. Democrats should gain back some of that ground, but I suspect this is not going to prove to be the night they were imagining. None of their top candidates are posting great numbers, and this doesn't look like the vote of a blue Texas. Once again, the left building up their charges, building up their supporters, building up their voters. This was going to be where all of this anger and all of this rage and all of that anger and rage justified because Trump is an absolute SOB. It's right to hate Trump. It's healthy to hate Trump. Trump is a hateful figure. And Texas was going to be where the first wave of anti-Trump hate was seen at the ballot box. And there was going to be enough of it to turn Texas into a Democrat stronghold. 61 to 39, GOP to Democrat. New York Times, I suspect this won't prove to be the night they were imagining. None of their top candidates are posting great numbers. Doesn't look like the vote of a blue Texas. And then there's this blog post. Texas primaries boast record turnout, but Democrats fall short. The 1.5 million Republican voters who turned out for the Texas primaries exceeds the previous record of 1.4 million in 2010. Wait a minute. I thought the Republicans were dejected. The Republicans were depressed. The Republicans knew they had made a mistake in electing Trump, and the Republicans were guilty and feeling ashamed. The Republicans were not motivated at all. The Republicans were feeling depressed, and they were just going to stay home. The Democrats, they were the ones motivated. They were the ones energized. They were going to go out, and they were going to make mincemeat of the entire opposition. The Republican Party was so depressed it wasn't even going to show up. And yet, what really happened? A record Republican turnout in Texas. Well, maybe not a record, but it exceeded. Yes, it was, because the previous record, 1.4 million, 7 years ago. Do you know what's interesting about 7 years ago? 2010. Did 2010 ring any bells, folks? 2010 Tea Party, midterm elections. 2010 is when the Democrats' gigantic electoral losses began. In the House, in the Senate, state houses, governorships. The Democrats lost a total of 1,300 seats nationwide between 2010 and 2016, and that's when it began, 2010. 2010 record Republican turnout, 1.4 million, Texas. Yesterday, that record beaten, 1.5 million Republican voters. It was a Republican high-energy primary. 2010 is also when Ted Cruz got the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate. Well, now, wait. Now, the Democrats did have a record turnout, but it was nowhere near the Republican turnout. And here's another little statistic for you, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready for this? If you take the combined votes in the Democrat primary, Ted Cruz beats them all. Ted Cruz, 85% of the Republican vote. If you add up the three Democrats in the Senate primary, Beto O'Rourke, Sima Hernandez, Edward Kimbrough, those three don't even total 800,000. Ted Cruz with 1.1 million. Ted Cruz beat every Democrat running combined. This was not supposed to happen. This was not supposed to. We were supposed to learn last night that Ted Cruz is going to lose in November. Look, there's a lot of meaning to this, but I'm out of time. I have to complete this when we come back, so don't go away. So how do you get a record Republican turnout when the political science experts tell us that in off-year elections, the party out of power cleans up? How does this happen? How do you get a record Republican turnout when the media was telling us that the Republicans are going to stay home? They were depressed. They were down in the dumps, realized what a mistake they made with Trump, that the Democrats were energized. I think we're looking at a potential repeat of 2002 here. We've got everything, including a rehash of the Wellstone Memorial, and the Democrats are not through irritating people. You know, for you people in the media, and I don't mind giving you this heads up because I know you can't help yourselves. You cannot stop your role. You cannot stop making the mistakes you're making because you are behaving irrationally. And so you're not going to listen to a rational suggestion from me. But you're forgetting something. You're forgetting there's another team on the field. And that team on the field is Republicans and Trump supporters. And you're forgetting that they have not grown tired of Trump. Trump still is what he was when he was running for president. He's the only thing standing between us and you people on the left ruining this country. We haven't lost any enthusiasm for stopping you, and the more insane you get, the more ludicrous, the more hate-filled, the more reactions like you had to the shooting in Texas, the more filth you produce in Hollywood, the more rot gut you demand we accept, the more energized we all get. You're not depressing us. You are ticking us off. And if you think Republicans and Trump supporters are going to sit home because you have us depressed and thinking Trump's gone and that Trump's an idiot, you still don't know what hit you in 2016. And if you're not careful, the same thing that happened to you in 2002 is going to happen to you in November. You're going to wake up and you're going to lose 20 of those 25 Senate seats. You may have all the enthusiasm in the world. You may have all the hate-generated voter turnout you can produce. But the other side, us, we're not sitting on the sidelines. And the more hate you gen up, the more rancor you create, the more chaos, the more your media insults us each and every day, that's all that much more energy we're all going to have to show up and vote in November. And that's what you're not factoring. And don't get mad at me for advising them, folks, because they can't help themselves. They can't stop. They can't. They're on a mission to destroy Donald Trump. They can't stop themselves. They think they're living in a world where there isn't much opposition to them. That's why this election of 2016 is so weird. They don't. How can we lose? We're the majority. We're it. They haven't the slightest idea of the world in which they really live. We'll be back after this.